Share screen. There we go. Oh, dang it. Forgot to change the name of my YouTube stream. That's funny. All right, no big deal. Alrighty, I think I'm finally ready to start actually speaking. Give me just a second. All right, cool. So yeah, pretty much. Oh, I didn't want to go to that. Owned a smarter trading. Yeah, so good morning, everybody. This is the first time I feel like I've had a couple people in our our Zoom morning stream actually. So that's cool. Um, yeah, so I guess since I actually have someone to talk to this morning as soon as I start, that's different for me. Where to start? Bitcoin for one. I think we're getting close to at least a tradable bounce. I don't think this is like a long-term dip buy sort of scenario with Bitcoin. But we are coming into some areas on Bitcoin that I pretty much think we're going to end up bouncing here, whether it be this week, maybe in the next week, just kind of in general. I think we have Bitcoin coming into some areas that are arguably going to be used as bounce spots. So if that's true, if that ends up being correct, you could look at Bitcoin futures, probably micros. Bitcoin futures very expensive, but micro futures. Um, IBIT, pretty much any sort of Bitcoin related instrument you could look at over maybe these next couple. When I say couple weeks, it just again it depends. We're coming into some weekly VWAP supports potentially, if you will, and yeah, I mean I think it's a tradable area personally. So I'm kind of following MSTR. MSTR has been beat down, obviously. So. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking maybe MSTR could be a decent play if we can bounce Bitcoin over the next week and a half. So keep my eyes on MSTR right now for potential trade just as it relates to Bitcoin. So it's pretty much a Bitcoin trade at the end of the day. Um, but I think it's been beat down a little aggressively. Might have a decent stat back. But either way, so that's what I'm kind of thinking of over this next week, week and a half. When I say week, week and a half, it's because I'm looking at two levels, right? And they're both weeklies. We already hit one. So this bounce that you're seeing last night, kind of into this morning, that was my first weekly level I was looking at. And then the next one's just a bit lower. So these are the two that I'm focused on right now. So this box is actually off. So if I just kind of make it like that and just adjust that a little bit, that box high to low is overlapping the two volume weighted average prices that I'm most focused on right now for Bitcoin this week and into next week. Well, really, as long as we're in this area, whether that be this week or next, doesn't really matter. Just good morning, Steve from YouTube. So yeah, just as long as we're doing that, that's kind of fine by me. So yeah, let's kind of zoom into that a bit. So now looking at a 5 minute chart, not that a 5 minutes great, just looking at for the purposes of this. This would be, we'll just call it W1, W1. So weekly VWAP 1 and W2. All right. Huh, W2. It's funny. Should we call it 1099? Oh. All right. You can tell I'm not as young as I used to be, apparently. So this is weekly VWAP 1. So that's what we hit last night, hence bounce. I guess it could have bounced off anything there other than the weekly VWAP one, but next one down would be here. So pretty much you already assume that if this doesn't hold support like this low, then you're just going to sell off probably to that one. I mean, it's obviously not a guarantee, but that's a lot of times how that's going to work. So basically, as we trade down into one to two, we're going to maybe look for some sort of bounce out of it. Now, and the reason I said, maybe it's this week, maybe into next week, a lot of times with weekly VWAPs, when they do work, you'll trade into it, you'll bounce, and it's usually the next week that goes green. So in the event we're even correct about this, um, and Bitcoin having like a little bit of a counter tradable bounce out of this zone, it may be something that takes place next week, right? So if we'll just say that this week we're trading down into, right? What is it? Is it Wednesday or is it Tuesday? It is Tuesday. So it's Tuesday, right? Um, so it's when you look at the current weekly candle, all right? So if you look at the current weekly candle, I mean, it's a decent red candle, all right? Let's zoom in here. So really just in general, right? One's got to ask, are we meant to flip this candle back to green? Like, even if this is a good support, is this candle meant to go green? I mean, it's debatable. A lot of times it would be easier to flip next week green as opposed to reversing all of this red right now. So with it being Tuesday, this might be a scenario where we kind of trade even a little lower into the 87s. Hell, maybe even a little lower than that. But ultimately, if this is legit, we might end up wicking this week and then flipping green next week, which as it relates to a trading view chart would be Sunday. Other platforms are a little different. I don't know the dates of those ones, but like I know Weeble's a little different, but either way, as it relates to trading views chart here, we might be looking at next week possible green candle if this is a legit support. Now, that being said, we also had mentioned that Bitcoin was going to top in October of 2025. Right. And the specific date we picked was October 13, which that doesn't look like October 13. But anyways, so that's all come true. We're obviously in a bear market now. And I'm assuming that's going to continue. Right. So essentially, we would be looking to bounce this market against the overall trend. A little dangerous in that sense, but it's kind of fun trying to at times pick bottoms when the entire world's panicking. Right. Because if you do pick it correctly, it's kind of hilarious because obviously everyone's like, ah. And then it's going back up. They're like, yay! So it would be fun to create that yay environment for everyone after they've been feeling a couple weeks of just getting kicked in the nuts, right? So if we could provide that to the world, that would be a thumbs up. And this might arguably be one of those areas to do so. Um, Also, that being said, right, we are obviously longer term bearish Bitcoin for the moment. And then to pretty much wrap this up, if we do end up performing a bounce out of our weekly volume weighted average price area, the first thing we'll try to do is take this price on Bitcoin back to the daily volume weighted average price. Um, Thanks, Diamond. Appreciate that comment. So, yeah, so the next thing is that if we do successfully bounce this bottom, not that not that it couldn't go back to all-time highs. Markets can always do whatever they want. Now, obviously, I definitely don't think that's happening, but the first thing we'll probably look to do is take it back to the daily volume weighted average prices that are not quite tested. So those are going to be here and here. So I could just draw one big zone like this, but then everyone's going to be like, oh, that's a huge zone. All right, fine. I'll make two zones. Right? We'll go like that. And we'll go like, wait, hold on. Yeah, one more. Well, that one's interesting. We'll just make it simpler for now. So we'll do this. So these are going to be the two long targets that we're going to look for off this bounce area, potentially, etc. And, you know, yeah, I could go on for days about the what ifs, but we're just going to keep it as simple as we can. If we're right, something bounce, we're going here. And then if this, once we get above here, we would go here, right? And these two targets do calculate downwards every day. So if the price isn't bouncing up and the price is going down, these VWAPs will go lower and those targets will adjust lower with the price. Um, so yeah, those are going to be the two desirable long targets that we're looking for on a counter long trade on Bitcoin right now. Now, if we are well, oh, I didn't really realize we're all the way down at 89,000. Hmm. Yeah. Well, anyways, if we do end up bouncing back to, it doesn't really matter, any one of these targets, then the news will most likely say Bitcoin bounces and recovers back to, say, 95,000 or 99,000. Really, wherever the targets are, if the price goes there, the news is going to follow. All right. So let's just hope we're correct because that was a big game talk right there. And if we're wrong, well, wouldn't be the first time I look like an idiot. Um, But anyway, so yeah, thumbs up. That's hopefully what we're going to see happen. It would be fun to see it happen. We can hopefully, add some optimism back to people's lives that have been loading the top of the market, unfortunately. So hopefully we can bring a little bit of optimism back to their life, a little optimism back to the crypto markets. Maybe get a couple of those news organizations to talk about our price targets after they happen. That would be sick. And then yeah, that's pretty much it on Bitcoin. So let's do that. All right, moving into the market. So market's still obviously in a sell signal. You guys already know this. Pretty much anybody who watches my YouTube or any of the streams here on Zoom has known me for more than a couple of years. You guys already know this, right? You know exactly why we're down. It's really no confusion to you guys. All right. So we are down because, well, that's just what the market does. It goes in uptrends and downtrends. All right. So right now we're just going through a short-term downtrend. And when I say short-term downtrend, it's because that's what it is, right? Now, these could always get to longer term down to whatever, right? But for the but again, as it relates to for most people, right? No one you know, um, something can be in a long-term downtrend, but still have tons of different bounces in the downtrend, right? And those little bounces are all tracked on the 30 minute, right? So, what I'm getting at is the market could be going down for whatever 2 years, and it's not going to go like that. It's going to go like down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and every single one of those ups, and then new downs, and new ups, and new downs, and new ups, and new downs, and new up, down, or yeah. Anyways, it all happens on the 30 minute. That's how we move the markets in the short term from short-term upswings to short-term downswings, short-term upswings to short-term downswings, whether we're going down for a long time or up for a long time. That's usually how the market functions. So right now, if we look at the longer term chart, the market's just been going straight up, right? We're starting to see some weakness. We're leading into 2026. 2026 was always the year. Well, not always the year, but again, for those that have followed me and Brandon for some years now, you guys know that not only were we predicting a Bitcoin bear market to start in October of 2025, we're looking for a stock market correction or bear market to start leading into or sometime in 2026. All right. So we're leading into 2026 and your market's been doing what? Going straight up. Really no correction. We're almost into what? 2026. All right. Is the timeline of the analysis finding coming true? Maybe. Who knows? Don't really know. At the end of the day, market always do whatever it wants. So, do we go into a bear market in 2026? Maybe. Maybe. But one thing I do also know, well, I don't know if we'll go into one, but maybe. But what are we going to do? We're going to look down at what? The 30 minute. And when that flips negative, we're definitely not going to be looking at long bias swing trading environments. So what do we have? We have the market tops. Then it goes into a 30-minute selling algorithm down. All right. Then we start to bounce. That bounce turns positive. We go through a couple days swing long. Then the market flips back to negative just a couple days ago. Now we're down. And where's the price today? It's right there. Where's the SMA? Here. So we're nowhere close to a swing long market. All right. Yes, the markets can bounce. Markets can have reversal V trades. That's bullish price action, but it's not a bullish swing structure change. All right. So if you're looking at anything long, that's totally fine, but you have to know you are in oversold bounce, reversal, V trading long strategies. You're not well, it's not entirely true, but you're not in short-term swing long strategies, okay? You're in oversold market. Well, that's the strategies you'd have to be aiming for is oversold bouncing strategies right now if you want to be long. Now, obviously, if you're someone who looks at, say, a weekly chart, then obviously you would still be long bias, right? Because your market is positive on the weekly, right? So if you think about it like that, right? Look at where the weekly uptrend started here, right? So where's the weekly downtrend start? There, right? So someone who's been long because of that, I mean, arguably they could still be long because the market hasn't triggered their, whatever. So, but for us who track markets in, every time frame for that matter, and mainly the short term, we are down. All right. So until that changes, that's the market environment. All right. Um, Yeah, so that's that. So, as I was saying, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, so I'll go back, swing long the market when it makes sense. And I already have a little long on because, I'm trying to do something probably stupid. But like I said, you'll know when I think it's time to go back, swing long the markets. Um, I bought, was it yesterday? Because I thought maybe the VVIX would signal we had some sort of bounce coming. That was wrong. So, no big deal. This is what I'll basically get to is pretty much when the VVIX or VIX truly signals for us to get long. I'll let you guys know. But it's just not happened yet. And we'd be looking at this one here. Oh, come on. Come on, Thinkorswim. You can do it, little guy. You're like a bajillion-dollar platform, and there you go. Yeah, so pretty much this is what's going to happen. The market, so this is like hedging, right? So this was before the market topped. That was last week. I had mentioned on stream, hey guys, the VVIX is gapping up and it's holding. So there's hedging going on in the market, protection for downside risk leading into CPI. All right. So we could see what day was that? I'll point it out on this chart here. It was this day. So right here, that day up there. That's when we noticed the gap up on VVIX, which told me that institutions were hedging CPI and getting downside protection on the market. All right. Then we break out. So that's the trend going positive. So now hedging is even more active. All right. And market has not broken down below the SMA. So in the short term, the hedging for the market is still active. Downside protection is being put on still. All right. If we look at the volatility index, which is here, let me pop this like that, and we're gonna go like this. So, all right, now if we look at this guy, this is obviously the VIX. Just bring it up here. So the VIX is this yellow line. It's just positive, right? So when the VIX breaks down, when VVIX breaks down, that's when we'll, arguably start being a little more aggressive trading up. Um, and then obviously when the market goes into a long, then we'll be more biased, but it's just not for the time being. All right. So, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Like I said, it doesn't take a whole lot of time for me to explain these things anymore. Well, just in general, because it's one SMA. It's that simple. You just, if it's above, it's up. If it's below, it's down. And I repeat this every single day. Um, so, you can do whatever you guys want in the short term. When I say, or maybe like the micro, right? You can do whatever sort of trades you want. There's all sorts of different trades that go on, and there's a bunch of different strategies you guys can use for that. Um, I know too many to count, you know what I mean? And any one of them could trigger at any point. Um, but I guess at the end of the day, I'm more or less just kind of here at this point to give you guys that general direction to help you kind of see that bigger picture, if you will. And whatever you guys want to do in the short term, be my guest. Um, this morning, I haven't really come across any penny stocks that also I didn't wake up super early this morning to begin with, but yeah, there's no penny stocks for the moment that I think we should. Well, actually, did I just find something? I may have found. It's not a penny stock. Hmm. Well, yeah, maybe you want to keep an eye on JHX. Yeah, maybe that one, but again, it's a little extended from. See, that's the thing is, it's already extended from support. It looks okay. Was support was at $17.15. It got to as low as 17.25. Yeah, so JHX is kind of one that, worthy-ish. But yeah, like I said, there was no penny stocks that see like there was a stock OLMA that did really good today. But you can see they triggered the buy algorithm start at 3 in the morning, right? So like who's up during then? No one, right? So they sent off computerized buy programs on OLMA this morning at 3 a.m. No one's up, right? Or 4 a.m. Sorry, this my computer is off by an hour, and I don't know how to switch it back. I've tried so many times. I even messaged support, but then I kind of forgot to get back to them. So maybe I should do that today. So it's really start at like 4 in the morning. My apologies. And yeah, so it's gone all the way up to 38 bucks. I know it's not on the screen. Here you go. I'll bring it on the screen. All right, so here's this stock, OLMA. Like this would have been a good play. All right, obviously. Look at this mega run. All right, so this thing started a buy algorithm at 4 in the morning, 4:14 in the morning, whatever. Okay, most retail's not up, all right? Not to mention the entire run. So like look at this, all the way up until when? Basically like 7, 8 in the morning. Now for people to use Thinkorswim, and don't have other brokers they can trade in that offer better times, then most of the people, and for most people, right? Generally speaking, for most retail, as far as it relates to Thinkorswim and just in general, they would be involving themselves in the market here, right? By the time people can trade on their platform, or most of retail's probably even waking up and thinking about the day, this is where they're at, basically getting dumped on, pooped on, right? But when you're sleeping and it's 4 a.m., they start an uptrend, right? And while you're sleeping, they send off a nice buy algorithm, right? Nice, 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 perfect buy algorithm. And then when you wake up on Thinkorswim and most of retail wakes up, it's like, oh, actually, stock's actually shit again. Never mind, we don't like it anymore, right? So they sent off a perfect buy algorithm on it, and then basically for the moment have topped it right as majority of retail would be involved. So like I said, I woke up a little late this morning. Um, there was no way I was up at I used to get up at 4 in the morning and watch markets. I haven't in a long time. I might do it again this winter because we're about to start going into the penny stock season. So I might change my schedule and start getting up at 4 in the morning and going back and trading some of these penny stocks in the morning, kind of like I did when I was actually crushing trading and actually like making good money. But I haven't done that in a long time. So I might go back to doing it this winter. Um, but yeah, anyways, where was I going with this? Yeah. Yeah, we're coming into the winter season. That's when penny stocks start to blow up again. A lot of times they'll send off buy algorithms on them very, very early in the morning. And if you don't want to be a part of the sheep herd getting dumped on, then generally want to be up early. That's how that works. So yeah, perfect buy algorithm when no one's paying attention, then dump it on the pre-market. Very common tactic we've been seeing for years, and it will continue to happen most likely. So, anyways, that was a good one. But like I said, by the time I woke up, I mean it's all the way up here. Like that's terrible, right? So, not that it can't keep going, but let's just look at when the uptrend started on OLMA. So the uptrend started on OLMA right there. And well, let's look at this 4 hour. Hold on. Yeah, pretty much there. So so let's bring this back up. That's where the uptrend started, over that yellow line. I know it seems kind of ridiculous, but that's the truth. And that's literally where the uptrend on this stock started. And if I were to zoom in closer, this is what it looks like. Ready? So right here, this is your 30-minute. Like I said, the 30-minute SMA is the control point for market makers pretty much on everything. Ready? So here's your breakout. There's your back test. And then how crazy. One day later, it goes into a mega buy algorithm. Think about it. That's how that works. Like you could basically call this like a flag pattern for the day if you wanted to over support, right? So this is again, guys, you do not control anything in this market. Ready? So somebody somewhere knew and they said, okay, we're gonna flip this into an uptrend right before, who knows, they probably released some news today. And oh, what do you know? Whack. So this is a perfect example of where someone really did know something, or market makers knew something, or there was a bunch of options bets coming in and the market makers had to adjust, whatever, right? Someone knew it was a perfect uptrend, perfect back test, 1 day consolidation, and then, oh, look at that, up 5 jillion percent today. Who knows, whatever. So that's a perfect example of pretty much you don't control anything in the market. It's a big game, you know, big old party. You're not really in it. All you can do is kind of ride the coattails of the systems, right? And this is what it is. This is the system. Okay, this is how the system works to a degree, right? So that's that. So pretty much in a nutshell, we don't really have a whole lot to do for the moment, as is how it is on most days. All right. What do you know? Bitcoin's starting to go up. That's cool. Hopefully that lasts. So yeah, cheers. Just to do maybe a little recap here. Actually, I should I should bring up a notepad. That's the first time I'm gonna get a little organized in my life. Bring up a notepad and I'm gonna make notes of gonna make some notes of kind of what we talked about, and that is going to go somewhere on this right side. I don't even really need the news because we never talk about it anyways, other than to giggle because the news is late, so that's pretty much irrelevant. So we'll take that down, and that must be a photo. Take that boy down, and then we're gonna add it there. So yeah, give me a second. I'm gonna make this little notes thing, and I'm gonna add that to our screen. 1 second. All right, there, back on. The SMA is the decision maker for up and down trends. Pretty much. How did you find that out? So I found that out because of another stock trader by the name of Brian Jones. Handle on Twitter is like Master B Jones or something. I forget exactly. But anyways, long story short, I just randomly came across his Twitter one day, and he's like, basically. You've all been fooled. You need to learn the system. It's that easy. And I was kind of like skeptical, and I was like, really? One SMA? Sure, why not? Let me give it a go. And then I just started back testing and watching it, and for years and years, I'm like, this is the truth. This is the light. And again, once I've seen it, I have never stopped using it. It's been pretty much like my go-to thing every single day. Then I just kind of took that and, started sharing it too. So I just, again, like share this, on YouTube for free as much as I can, that's pretty much it. Spread that word, if you will. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then from there, I've added my own things on top of it, like, volume weighted average prices or Fibonacci's and what have you. See, like, right now, this is just something I don't really trade this Fibonacci, but it is kind of like a tactic that I watch. So I trade it every once in a while. I can't say never trade it, but like you see how we're at the 161 right now. So this is kind of a way that I look at it too, is if I were to run a Fibonacci on this current selling operation. See, like most people think of fibs from like low to high, right? So if someone, like for example, if you went on YouTube right now, somebody would somebody would be teaching you Fibonacci like this. Not to say that it doesn't work in some regard, but that's how they would teach you. Like, oh, so we go up, measure high to low, look for a retrace of the 50%, get long, and then go to 161, something like that, right? So what I'll do is I'll actually use them in relationship to sometimes like this buy and sell signals. And so my pull point in this case, there's a couple different ways I do it. I do a high to low at times, but I would say, so I think of this right here as an impulsive move. So like this move from here to here is impulsive, right? So not, so it's a downward move. Not only is it downward, but you also broke the SMA down. So we know we're in a neutral to bearish environment. So if we enter a bearish environment and it keeps going, right? Then obviously Fibonacci would probably complete to the downside, but nonetheless, I view this as an impulsive move down. And then I think of this break of the 10 SMA right there as the start of the 100% level. So I think this right here, because this is a move down, and then this right here would be sort of one of the first algorithmic reactions after that sell move as we have computers go, oh, we're over the 10 SMA. So I would make that a pull point, and then I would go to the top here. Oh, wait, let me go the other way. I'll make it easier. So I would pull Fibonacci like that on a sell signal or a buy signal, right? And so how do we read that? So the market was here. Then it goes into a selling operation and the market panics and we have a what do I want to call that? A downward reaction move that then bounces enough to break over the 10 SMA. That's algorithm talk right there. That would be algorithm speaking in real time as a 10 SMA flips. And then so that becomes my start point and pull end point, right? And then what's here? 161. So we have completed, as it relates to this Fibonacci, the 161 extension of this impulsive move or impulsive selling operation, if you will. All right. So, for example, let's use the opposite, right? So let's teach you something different. Like I said, this is fine out. Again, I don't really have much to do. I'm just looking for Bitcoin to bounce, which it is. So again, I already have a little MSTR, um, not a lot. I didn't buy a ton because I'm like, well, what if we don't bounce the first and we go to the second? I got to have some cash to reload down there. And then what if I'm wrong here and it goes a little lower than that? I got to be able to get that. And then when I feel this area is not good, then I would just cut out. But clearly it's working. Let's see how MSTR is doing actually. Nice. Better than not going up, I guess. Um, what was I looking at? Yeah, all right. So let's teach you something else here, which is pretty much how a lot of people think of Fibonacci. Mainly retail. When I say retail, mainly most YouTube, like 95% of all YouTube videos and like 95% of how retail thinks when it comes to Fibonacci. So they would take the high to low, right? So this is a bottom, then it rallies up, and they would go, all right, let's measure high to low. And when it comes into the 618 or the 50% retracement, every single YouTube video on the planet said get long, right? That's where we look for the long, right? What 99.999999999% of all the other YouTube videos did not teach you on top of your high to low strategy is when the market enters a selling operation. So if you were to go with this strategy, pull high to low, Fibonacci, and buy into the golden pocket, not that it could not have worked, not that it wouldn't have worked. You were essentially getting long on the same day that a new selling algorithm started. So you basically were buying a dip on the day that the stock market literally entered a short-term bearish market, right? Literally entered a bear market on the day you're trying to go long. All right. Not that it couldn't have held here, but essentially you're buying a dip in the hopes that you're catching a bottom in a selling operation. Not the easiest thing to do, especially for a beginner. So essentially, you'd be looking for a long fib in a bear market on the day that a bear market started. And when I say bear market, it's for the simple terms in general speaking that everyone knows if it's a bear market, things are going down, right? People don't necessarily believe selling algorithms, selling operations, things of those natures or that nature. So, well, anyways, so that's pretty much that. We're in a selling operation. Here's a little rundown on some fib stuff. Um, hmm, yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is going to be a pretty easy day, I think. My MSTR is pumping, kind of, not really. I mean, it's not going crazy, but it's doing well. Yeah, we're gonna be, like I said, we're looking up to basically there. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Uh, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Um, you know, there's definitely some big bids on MSTR. I don't ever watch level two, but if you look at the level two right now, you will see some major bids going on. Someone keeps jumping on the OTCBB. Don't really know what that is. So don't take everything I'm saying totally true, but someone, I mean, OTCBB keeps slamming 2000. There was also some 6000s. Um, Definitely heavier than the ass side. But anyways, so I'm not a big level two guy, but I was like, let me just see if I'm seeing anything that might coincide with what we're thinking. Yeah, like there goes some 6000. Just looks like someone just keeps adding a floor down there on Arca. Let's see. Let's see how that all comes to. Yeah, and if we're looking at price action here with Bitcoin, it would be nice to get over that because then obviously it'll probably start squeezing out more people, but well, it's probably going to take some time. You looking at any other crypto? No, no, I don't really mess with a whole lot of other cryptos. I mean, I do, but I don't run analysis on. I mean, that's not entirely true. Um, it's just mo not, and that's not true. What I was about to say, most things follow the Bitcoin market, right? So pretty much, if you have Bitcoin, right, you pretty much know how everything else is. Every other stock is gonna, or wait, every other crypto is gonna move. It's not entirely true because obviously some do move outside of Bitcoin's price, right? If Bitcoin's going down, not all the time is everything else going down, right? Um, but yeah, like XRP, there's a buddy on my golf league, golf group, asked me about XRP back in the summer and like, should I buy it? I'm like, you can buy it if you want, don't buy a lot because it's pretty much just going to be going down from here. So, if we look at XRP, um, or wait, that's not XRP. XRP USD. So if we look at good old XRP, you know, this thing's gonna get clapped, probably. It's already been getting clapped, but so my buddy asked me if he should be buying basically XRP like right here. I'm like, pretty much this thing is not gonna give you much at this point. went down, one spike up, back down. So yeah, I mean, these other cryptos can move independent to some degree, but it always seems like they pretty much just follow Bitcoin for the most part, right? So, that being said, yeah, I mean, if I think Bitcoin's going to be in a bear market for the next for very much the foreseeable future, then yeah, we're probably going to see XRP go down. You're probably going to see a bunch of other ones go down. I know all the altcoin bros have been talking about alt season coming, but we still have yet to see alt season. I think. I don't know. But so yeah, either way. That's pretty much that spiel. Um the other thing too is I do such a good job at predicting Bitcoin that I mean like I don't really see a need for myself to use too much more brain power elsewhere when it does a pretty good job at emphasizing when everything else is going to have underperformance as well. Um, But just like when the stock market goes in a bear market, when the stock market goes in a bear market, majority of everything else is going down. There might be 10, 15% of stocks that are doing well during a bear market, right? So there's still stuff that outperforms, and those are obviously kind of like your outliers where you'd have to be involved in obviously deep research to have some sort of idea that that's what you're, looking for, if you will. You know, been hearing of strategic reserve, this, that, this, the other for a long time now. And, maybe it comes to, maybe the rumors are true on XRP and Sol and whatever other ones. I mean, all I can say is, do your research. And if you think it's valid, then sure, go for it. And that's pretty much it. Don't over leverage any one of them. Keep a diversified portfolio. You'll probably be just fine. I mean, as sad as it is to say, I mean, we all know, I mean, you don't really get extremely rich by diversification as far as long-term investing goes. Well, it's not entirely true. If you have a bunch of money, then you obviously do, um, but I mean, for most people, even myself included, even after so many years, it's the one way I usually end up protecting myself, right? Whenever I get myself in trouble investing or buying something, it's when I buy too much of one thing. That's the only time I ever have an issue. Literally in my entire trading career, and the only time I've ever had any issue is when I buy too much of one thing, and then I'm wrong, right? That's it. That's where all the emotional, oh, you're an idiot, that's where that comes in, right? Other than that, whenever I don't do that, I somehow end up winning, So it's like, that it's the truth, it's like as much as you want to hammer it and you want to go fast, for most people, it's just not going to work. And I've seen it both ways. I've made fast money and I've made slow money, and I've lost fast and arguably lost slow, if you will, to keep that saying going. So yeah, I mean, do as you please. All I gotta say is that unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but yeah, I mean, really, just if you want some soul, buy some soul. If you want some XRP, buy some XRP, but just don't put too much money in either one, and you'll be fine. You'll be patient enough to see if your research is correct, but not so over leveraged that you're too impatient to not see it play out. Oh, yep. YouTube stream booming today. Absolutely booming, ladies and gentlemen. I can feel it. We are just days away from the YouTube algorithm throwing our stream on the home pages. We're about to be booming. Yeah, so like I said, those are really the only two things I'm thinking right now. Bitcoin is yeah, exactly, Paul. Yeah. So anyways, the Bitcoin bounce is pretty much what we're working on right now. And the market's in a selling operation. Those two things that's it. I mean, it's really the only thing I'm looking at. Granted, I don't usually try to do a whole lot else these days. Ooh, what is this? Am I gonna get schemed on this, or is this decent? I don't know. It kind of makes me want to give it a try. Hmm, I think I am. I think I'm gonna buy some VRA. It's not terrible. I think it's pretty decent risk. I mean, let's just see. Yeah, yeah, whatever. I mean, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it don't. I don't really, whatever. And so yeah, I just took on some VRA because basically it's in an uptrend. It just pulled back to support and it's not too elevated. And what is it? Let's see. Only like it's like 4 or 5% above support and trend. So it's like it's got like a 5, 6 percent risk, nothing too crazy. So if it's meant to be and the markets are meant to manipulate that stock today, then great. And if not, then we don't win pretty much. Granted, we are in a sell signal, so penny stocks and stocks tend to not perform as good when we're in a selling operation. So not really thinking we're going to see, well, it's not entirely true, but you just must know that right now the market is not favorable for liquidity going in because the entire stock market's going down. So when that happens, stocks and penny stocks tend to not perform as well. That's typically how that goes. It's actually kind of interesting. I don't see that very often. Hmm. Oh, let me get off XRP. We don't need to be on that anymore. Ooh. So again, guys, kind of going back over to Bitcoin just a little bit. Well, nah, it doesn't matter. We already covered that too good. So we already pretty much know whether it be up or it be down, where we're going to next. I don't really need to touch on that too much. All right, let's go into the market here a little bit. Obviously, we were kind of covering a bunch of other stuff this morning. We do have a gap down, so let's just kind of run our gap Fibonacci. So that's the open, that's the close. So the gap and go slash gap extension target on the day would be right here. So that's probably where this candle is going to drop out to in a sec. Um, just like that. So we've completed our 161 destination for Fibonacci as far as SPX is concerned. That's another thing that the internet, maybe not, I don't know, but I haven't seen too many people teaching that strategy, which is the measuring the overnight gap. So you're measuring the overnight impulse. So this is all for gap and go, or in this case, gap pull back and go. It's all for 161 targeting. So like today we had a gap down in the market. It did not go to 161. It pulled back, then it went to 161. So that's how we measure the overnight gap and get an idea of, kind of areas the market will want to trade to if it continues in the direction of the gap. It does not necessarily pick bottoms. Sometimes it does. Sometimes markets go much, much further down than that. But it's usually a very um, obtainable target in the event the market is going to have some directional push, you know. So we've finished our 161 target on the downside. Um, yeah, that's that. Let's take a look at some weekly stuff here. See if we cannot find ourselves a bouncing opportunity on the market at some point. So this would be here. Here. Oh, come on. There we go. Bum 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 ba bum 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 bum. I was listening to some Game of Thrones music this morning, and now it's just stuck in my head. I've been getting into some classical. I've been hitting some classical music lately. I'm not saying Game of Thrones is classical, but some piano, some violin. Listen to some Max Richter. It's been good. Um, yeah, we're not quite at. We would be there though. Actually, this might actually be a little bit of a bounce spot. I'm not going to trust it as much. I'm still uncertain, but these would be two weekly VWAPs that could be used as support. It just depends if the market wants to. Again, we don't make up the rules, but these we just actually this is probably a decent scalpable spot. But anyway, so these are two support levels we be watching right now, like one here, and these would be for kind of oversold, bouncing sort of trades, right? Um, again, really wasn't even thinking of that until just a second. And this is what always happens. Whenever the market is selling down and it's going down, you eventually go, well, yeah, I mean, I know we're in a sell signal and I've been saying it's going down, but are we ever going to bottom, right? So then you're like, well, let me start using some of the tactics that I look for bottoming markets, right? Or trying to at least find a bottom in a market. Weekly VWAPs tend to be one of them. So, that's one level we'd watch right there, and then the next one is obviously the next one down, and so on and so forth. All right. So this is like oversold, seeking out different support areas, right? Seeing where we might catch a bid, catch a bottom, right? And if these don't work, I mean, that's fine, right? So just remember though, right? What are we doing? We are seeking out support on the downside while we are in a selling operation, right? So like when we're saying, oh, this could be and this could be, remember, you know, we are not in a swing long market, right? So like this morning, what I said, the only thing you can do is you can look for oversold bounce. You need to be short or you're looking for oversold bouncing and reversing, right? The sell signal started all the way up here, so you're very late to the short in theory, right? So now what we do is we see, okay, we'll just let it keep going down, let it keep going down, and we'll use our kind of oversold bouncing strategies, and eventually the market will find some support, it will bounce, and then arguably we go into a buy signal at some point, right? Hmm, what is that? GSC, yeah, interesting. Do, 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 do. Let me look at this weekly chart again. Busy day here in the chat, guys. Don't be too talkative now. Wouldn't want you to become an extrovert. Well, we got VRA up there about 6% from the entry. Not bad. It's a decent little 6%er for the day on a penny stack. Can't complain. Can't complain. Granted, we'd obviously like to see it go as much as possible, but remember, we don't control the market. Maybe I should add that one there. Three. I don't know why I'm spelling like an idiot. I should just do all caps. You know, I actually kind of want to bring up VRA a little bit too. Let's do that. Yeah. Um, oh, this is the pre-market. There we go. So with VRA, just want to kind of emphasize some kind of chart structure, if you will. So we know what? We know the uptrend on VRA started at 263, give or take, right? So that's the breakout. That's the first back test, and that's the long off of. This is the market crashing down and doing sort of that's some more of like a correction back to support. And this is an oversold bounce. So this is not a breakout and go. This is a corrective sell-off into support, bouncing. If it can kind of reverse, great. If not, ultimately goes back to. All right. And then you end up creating a head and shoulders. All right. And the neckline is 263, right? We don't know if it's going to be a head and shoulders. You don't know if it's going to go. What you know is that as long as it's over, it's still in an uptrend. All right. We crashed down, we hit support, we just bounced it. Does it keep going? Don't know. If it goes down, where's it going? Back to 263. If it breaks down 263 and sells off, then you form a head and shoulders, right? So whatever the market wants to do, it's up to the market. I don't control that. I just look for uptrends, downtrends. All right. So I was able to get 6% off that bounce. And I'm happy. All right. And I still got some on. And if it keeps rallying out, then great. That's awesome. All right. So now I just got the runners on at this point. I took 6%, got runners on, and now if it continues up, great. Market's also in a bear market. Optimism maybe isn't much there. Who knows? But that's pretty much it. The whole strategy. Why did we long? Why did we I long this one today? Because it's in an uptrend and it just came off support and I saw people buying it. So I'm like, all right, there's probably enough there to bounce the market some. So that was it. That's literally it. Just saw a stock go into an uptrend, saw it hit support, buy it. That was it. That's all I did. Man, we are booming today, folks. All right, so our friend Bitcoin slowed down on its initial bounce. That's okay. Again, that's just our first weekly level, and so far it's been used pretty good. Again, long targets and sell targets are all the same. Oh, let me take off this guy. Our next kind of low risk area to involve ourselves would be all the way down at like 87,000 next. So, if it wants to shoot up to the targets now, great. If it wants to sell off to the next level, just gonna have to wait and then we can readjust down there. Yeah. So, anyways, and again, like we said, this is weekly support. We may have to get through the remainder of the week before we see green candles truly print. So again, this just might be a situation on Bitcoin where we're waiting throughout the remainder of this week before we see green candles, essentially print on the weekly chart, even if they want to. Mm, 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 mm. Well, so it's kind of a decent, that's a good support break today on the market, coming down through those weekly VWAPs. When that happens, it basically tells us that the daily chart is no longer, at least for the moment, holding that higher low, higher high scenario on the weekly chart. So again, if we were to take each previous dip in the market, for the most part, dip, higher low, right? Right here, add pretty much gets that higher low. Now we're kind of, so again, we use that to track the higher low development in the market sometimes, many times, and it's right now it's not holding, right? So when that happens, it just tells us that there's just selling pressure in the market. That's all, which we already know. That would be sweet if VRA turned into like one of the biggest gainers for the day on this shit day. See, for example, check this out. Now, I'm not saying that VRA is amazing and whatever, but for example, on this stream, I involved you, maybe me, in this stock, VRA. Why? Because when we noticed it, I noticed it was only 5% above support. So even if we were wrong, the risk is really low, right? Or what else? What was the other one? OLMA. Or we had this option today, OLMA, where we know support is all the way down at $8.64. So what I did was I did not emphasize, look at OLMA today and buy a stock, at the open or look to buy that's 70% above support. No. I said, let's watch one that is only 5% above support. Do you see the difference? By not involving yourself in markets that the risk to return is arguably skewed. Not that they can't keep going, not that they won't keep going, but the risk is just elevated. So, this whole entire morning, aside from talking about the market and looking at Bitcoin and all these other things, we're kind of flipping through some different penny stocks, seeing is there anything that has decent risk to reward? This was the only thing I saw that in the moment today, makes sense. Now, granted, I didn't look at some other scanners and I could maybe find something else, but amongst streaming and talking and teaching and looking at plays, that's the only thing I could come up with that I thought was decent. Right. But that's the perfect example of, you have a handful and like you have a handful of different stocks you can look at today or pick from, right? And so what are we going to do? Buy OLMS that's, 70% above support, that's way away from its breakout? Or are we going to look at something that's not just started breaking out, right? Arguably, and not to mention, I mean, there is some decent volume on it. So that's another thing. I don't even know what's the news on that one. I don't even see news on that, right? So it's like I bring up the news on VRA. There's no news on it, but for some reason there's a bunch of volume randomly. It's like, that's interesting, right? Because aren't we supposed to be taught that like typically if there's like volume, like if there's news, then there's volume, but it's like why is there no news and a bunch of volume? All right. Yeah. Uh, so that raises my eyebrow. And then when I see it's only 5% off support, it's like, okay, well, maybe I will buy some of that. So that's our spiel. Enough of VRA. I have no clue what they do, don't know what they do. I just saw it was going into an uptrend. Risk reward was decent. That was it. Don't buy it. Bum 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 bum. Oh, by the way, can you guys see that like text on that notepad in the bottom right corner of the screen decent? Is the text visible, I guess is the question. I don't know. Easily visible maybe is a better way of saying that. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that, my dude. McGee. McGee. Yeah. I am currently down 6% on my UPRO play. Remember, I was like, yes, was that yesterday? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna buy a little bit because I think I'm smarter than the market, and now I'm down 6%. It's a perfect example of not fully listening to the system, but that's okay. Um, But yeah, that's what I'm getting at, right? It's like you're trying to buy a bottom in a selling operation. You have to for sure pick the bottom or else you just get sold out on, right? So that's why the other day when I was like, I mean, I'll take a little stab here, I went really small because what I was doing was taking on a very early signal, right? Early in the sense that it's not truly confirmation, but if it was correct, it would be like, the start. So that's why I started small. And so now I'm down 6%. Do I really care? Not really. Why? Because I didn't take enough that would really scare me. Oh man, look at VRA. Who is buying that thing? What an idiot. What an absolute loser. Should have freaking bought OLMA. The kids' YouTube streams are dangerous. Wow. Dangerous man. Danger, danger. Stranger danger. Toot, 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 toot. So I did take a little off on VRMA on that high, because again, it's about what, like 10% now. Yeah, about a 10% gain for me, so sold a little more on that pop. And now I'm probably gonna roll the rest of these shares until I stop out or until, it goes up to, 6,000%, one of the two, you know? I'm either stopping out or we're gonna make 6,000%, right? I mean, that's what all the YouTube thumbnails say when I go searching on the internet how to trade stocks. How to make $6 million in 2 seconds. Follow this trading strategy and you will have super hot wife and Lamborghini. Hmm. Speaking of, I'm actually going to bring up my Webull scanner. By the way, believe it or not, Webull is actually a good platform. Sometimes I wish I used it more than I do, but yeah, I mean, I think their biggest gainers list is pretty good. I mean, biggest gainers is biggest gainers. I mean, nothing crazy is going to change there, but um, yeah. Ooh, did I just find us another trade? No, I didn't. I thought I did, but I didn't. CMN. No, that one's garbage. This one. Here's a good learning example. Check this one out. Would you frickin' All right, so this one, Lobo. Lobo my no go. So look at how it's bouncing today, right? You see how it's got a nice little bouncer Magoo going on. All right, so you see how Lobo is going up, right? Look at what it just did. So, well, for one, let's look at the chart here, right? Is this in an uptrend or is it in a downtrend? It's actually in a downtrend, right? And this morning you got a bunch of volume and it's bouncing up, right? So there's a nice bounce going on, right? So there's probably some people looking at this, people trading this, right? But those that don't really follow the system, what they don't recognize is that this is actually a stock that's in a downtrend and it's bouncing up to the 30-minute trend resistance and the 4-hour trend resistance, right? So the same way we just went long VRA because it's coming into support is the same thing with Lobo, but it's coming up into resistance, right? Until it breaks it out, it's not a breakout, right? It's just a back test of resistance. So if we look at the 4-hour here, the 4-hour SMA is another important one we follow, and that's right there, right? So we basically know that right now Lobo is in a downtrend. It's doing an oversold bounce back to resistance, right? And look at the down move, right? So that's the same thing we just did, but on VRA, but on the long side. So this is something where beginners will involve themselves on what they think is a good penny stock because it's moving up, right? Oh, it's a nice spike and oh, it's good bounce. Yeah, until you bounce it into resistance and then get whacked, right? Or until you're buying this high, unknowing that this is just straight up a resistance back test, right? And then you get cooked. So that's a perfect example of what we already do, but in the opposite, right? So we look for longs, right? Many of the times as it relates to this, right? But what you're witnessing in real time is basically the same setup we did on VRA. The patterning is different and it's moving different, but it's the same setup, which is the stock went into a downtrend, back tested resistance, went down, came back tested resistance, now down. Right. So until it's actually over that, this stock doesn't flip into an uptrend. These are just oversold bounces in a downtrend. And there's your other learning lesson for the day. What time is it? 10:18. These mornings I feel like I'm just here for forever. It's only been like an hour and a half. I mean, I guess when you cover every single asset in the world, it seems like, well, not really, but I mean, we've covered penny stocks, Bitcoin, stock market. I mean, we've covered quite a bit. Volatility index, volatility of volatility. Only thing we gotta start doing is teaching yoga on this stream, and then we're just golden. Stream is absolutely pumping today, ladies and gentlemen. Give ourselves a round of applause for staying on the right side of the world's largest globally traded ETF while also predicting the bounce of one of the world's largest globally traded asset classes, Bitcoin, while also simultaneously picking one of maybe the only decent penny stocks to get long on today so far. Well, that's not entirely true, but you get the point. I mean, we've done a heck of a job, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone, give yourself a round of applause. You deserve something nice. Go out and get yourself a Twinkie today. You deserve it. DGNX. Nah. It's funny. They're pumping a lot of well, it's not entirely true, but yeah, they're getting away with pumping up a lot of shit stocks this morning. Um, but again, you guys get the point, right? I mean, like, think about it. Think about, I mean, if we look at just ready, watch this. Look at all these penny stocks. So let's just go through them, right? So think of the day, think of the market we're in, right? So the past couple days, whatever, we've been going down, the market's selling off, liquidity is coming out of the market, right? People are mo removing liquidity from markets. That's what happens in sell signals, right? So let's look at, well, VRA's, one that, well, we're not going to look at that. We already looked at that. But like, look at this one, SOS. And maybe we'll do it like that. So I'm just going to quickly flip through these ones, right? So SOS, what's this one? It popped up, but it's still below the 30 minutes. So it's a downtrend. So that's a very trappy setup this morning. OLMA, extremely blown up, algorithmic force scam, long pump. And then when retail can get involved, most of them it's just dumped out on, right? LPCN, low volume, nothing, didn't really turn out, right? This one, don't even, nothing, right? This one, I mean, one morning pop up, dumped out, nothing. Right now, I'm gonna flip through all these other ones like CANF, right? Look at this one. This one gap shot up and then just dumped out. Absolutely nothing. We might have a trade on this one. It just depends if we get there when I'm stream. Just in general, this one's got a potential trade setup all the way down at pretty much there, like 40 cents, but that hasn't happened yet. CMND. CMND. I mean, look at this one. Ready? So look what they did with this one. They popped it up into an uptrend and then just dumped it right back out. So this is another interesting one, is if you see it, they broke it out on the 30 minute, but they did not break out the 4 hour. So this is another common thing we'll see. If you zoom in here, you can see we broke out the 30 minute and then we ran it up almost to the 4 hour, right? And then it just stayed in a downtrend. So if you didn't understand like that, you'd be buying a 30 minute knowing that you're still in a 4 hour downtrend. Either way. Long story short, pumped up, dumped out. All right. Let's go to the next one here. ASBP. Same thing. Look at it's still on. They did the same thing, same setup as we just looked at. They broke up the 30 minute, kept it below the 4 hour, just dumped it right back out. Now you can go down the list of stocks this morning, and this is pretty much what you're going to see, right? So this one, it was in an uptrend a couple days ago, but pretty much nothing. What else we got? ONFO. What's this? What's this? Oh, same stuff. Look at, ready? So they popped this one up pre-market. Look at they jumped this one up pre-market all the way to $1.38. Ready? Made it look good. But the reality is that was just what? That was just pumping, right? Pumping up, and then next thing you know, they drop it back out. So what we're seeing this morning is a lot of what? Failed penny stock moves, right? So for anyone that trades penny stocks only, this would be that day where they make a post, on Twitter or maybe their trading journal recap and be like, "Oh man, it was a tough day out there. Just couldn't get anything going, It's like it's just everything I got involved with just didn't have that momentum." It's like, well, yeah, no shit. Stock market's in a selling algorithm. Liquidity is coming out of the market. When that happens, you're less likely to see follow through. So if you're, and again, I didn't know all these things till now, arguably put all this stuff together and I'm still learning. But one thing I do know for certain is when the stock market is in a selling algorithm like we are right now, liquidity comes out of the market and you're less likely to see A, stocks go up, but B, even penny stocks perform, right? So, you know, that's it. This is how you see that cycle, right? So the cycle is happening right now where we're in a selling algorithm, stocks are having weakness, penny stocks aren't moving. Anyone who trades penny stocks are not going to find a whole lot right now until we kind of pick back up on the market. And the ones that we do find may not last very long. We won't see that big multi-day runner and so on and so forth, right? So I can almost guarantee, if you our guys are on Twitter, I don't have Twitter anymore, but I can almost guarantee you can go on Twitter and go to your, one of your penny stock guys trading today, and if they recap it or whatever, they're probably going to say it was a tough day, right? And that would make perfect sense because it has been a tough day in the penny stock market. Really, nothing's moving. They're doing a bunch of scammy jumps up in bearish trends and then topping markets on SMAs and bearish moves, which makes sense, right? If the stock market's in a downtrend, what are we doing? We're popping stuff up to resistance. So you're seeing a lot of these junkers get manipulated up into resistance and then sold back off, right? So this is the perfect scenario of just washing penny stocks today within this sell move. And those that, don't see it, don't understand it, um, they're just haven't gotten there yet. That's all. How's our MSTR doing? Oh, baby. It's looking good. It's looking real good. Oh, baby. I mean, you gotta admit, we tackled MSTR today. VRA said the market's still probably gonna be bearish. So far, every pick has been a winner today. Thumbs up, dudes. Thumbs up. Go eat a hot dog. He's turning into a dangerous, dangerous man. The markets are not gonna be liking me. They don't like me. Well, they do, but they don't. And that's a good thing. Now I just gotta have some more confidence so I can get back to actually making some good monies. I'm doing all right, but it's just not like it was back in the past, man. I miss the days of just waking up and just railing thousands every day. And then once you start losing a bit, your psychology gets so out of whack. And then you're like, I'm never gonna be able to do that again. It's like such a mind game, this freaking market. But anyways, that being said, he's turning into a dangerous man. Why? Because he never gave up, even after in the face of losing too much monies. So hopefully that we can keep picking up steam like we have been. Now, other things have done well. My real estate portfolio is great. My long-term investments are great. My long-term Bitcoin is great. But some of the short-term stuff I've done over the past years have struggled some, but it feels like I'm finally turning around some, so I'm happy about that. Get this man a job at CNBC, but pay him well. Pay him well. Oh, I mean, gosh, look at that. I mean, the best part of all of this is that the entire market is just so scared. They are just so panicked. They just can't fathom why Bitcoin has been going down. And then here we do. Here, what do? We just come in to save the day. We're gonna bounce Bitcoin. I even woke up this morning. The first thing I did when I woke up and I, you know, rubbed my eyeballs, I made a YouTube video and said, "Good morning, guy. Let's bounce Bitcoin." And here we are, bouncing Bitcoin. The people's hero. They didn't know they needed him, but he saved the day, kind of. And actually, MSTR just got up, so this is kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens here. Look at so, MSTR just got up to where? The 30-minute SMA. So, right? So Like for example, MSTR has been in a downtrend. I see Bitcoin has hit a good support. We should go long MSTR. So MSTR is in a downtrend. We know it's in a downtrend, but we know that Bitcoin is oversold. So we go long. And now we've brought it back to where? Where the market is now going to test whether or not it wants to stay in a downtrend or go into an uptrend. If we can trigger an uptrend, then our trade is going to turn into something significantly better than what it's been already. So this is the moment. Well, it's not really the moment, but we're in a moment where the market is gonna start having to decide, do we stay in a downtrend or do we go into an uptrend? If we go into an uptrend, this is gonna be a banger. And if we don't, then whatever. Same old, same old. So yeah, it'll be interesting. So let's watch this in real time a bit because you guys will probably have fun with this, right? Because this is the important stuff is being seeing the stuff in real time when it matters. So basically what you need to let's just double check that's accurate. Hold on. 30-minute, 10-day, 30-minute. That's not accurate. I have it wrong. See, look at that. See, like look at see, I quickly was like, yeah, look at we're right there. Look at my level. It's wrong, right? I put this yellow line here, which is 208.01, and realistically the SMA is here at 207.66. So the true reality is we should be there for our SMA calculation. Well, now new 30-minute candle, so now we're not there. We're actually down lower. Now we're here. All right. So algorithms are starting to talk heavily on MSTR. Now, do I know what they're saying? No. But they are making a bunch of if-then statements right now. And it's going to be if market breaks out, maybe we go long. If market rejects, then we sell off the market. But again, that being said, when I see Bitcoin, and I have a target on Bitcoin up to the daily view apps and we're bouncing it really good. I mean, yeah, I'm thinking we're going to take Bitcoin back to like here potentially and even up to here. Obviously, if that happens, then there's a good chance we do what? We are going to break out that 30-minute trend on MSTR. So we'll see. But you can already see, look at that little look at how well the algorithm look at algorithms wick stopped dead on its tracks right there. So, we might see a pullback here on MSTR. There might not be a pullback. Again, I don't control stuff. We just know that when just like what was it, Lobo? Was that the one? Look at Lobo, right? So look what happened when Lobo. So this is the same thing. Look at Lobo over, it's bearish, bounces back to SMA trend and then whacked, right? Does that happen on MSTR today? I don't know. Right? Again, I don't control that. We just know the patterning though, if you will. So then we go over to MSTR. Same thing. MSTR is done what? Bounced all the way back to 30-minute trend. So if MSTR is meant to stay in a downtrend, at least for the moment, this won't break out, right? Now, if you think about it too, there's no higher low off this leg. It's just a move up. So this could also just be a short-term temporary pullback that then gets developed into a higher low. And then if Bitcoin ends up going higher tomorrow or something, then maybe we break it out tomorrow, right? Again, there's tons of different ways this could set up, but that's really just it. Markets can only go up and down. So think about the scenarios. Well, it can either just break out and go. It could have resistance that's very short-lived, then breakout. It could have resistance that just keeps it into a downtrend. It could have resistance that then makes it a pullback to a higher low, then break. I mean, there's so many different scenarios. Again, you don't control it. All you know is that the level is there, and if the computers and the algorithms want to use it favorably for us, then awesome. That would be great. So that's what we want. We want the market to break out $208. We're going to go into an uptrend on MSTR, and then hopefully we blow this puppy up a little bit in the short term. And then hopefully the news might be like, oh, Bitcoin gets back to 100K or over 95K or MSTR starts to rally or who knows, right? Whatever the news wants to say. I don't think there's probably no positive news on MSTR right now because it's very early, right? Like the bounce on Bitcoin's still early. Most people would never jump in on the absolute low like we just did essentially, because they would be too scared because they would look at the news and the news would tell them the world's over and MSTR is going in Bitcoin, right? They'd let the news affect them. And all we're doing is just looking at the Bitcoin market, saying it's oversold into good support levels. Let's go long, right? As a result, MSTR should follow. If we're correct on where it should go, then we already know what the news will look like, right? If Bitcoin does go to 95,000 off this low, then articles will probably say, "Oh, Bitcoin goes back to 95K." Or if it gets back up to like this daily view app right here, close to 100K, news will be like, "Oh, Bitcoin is moving back towards the 100K mark. Maybe everything is okay," right? If that happens, you see MSTR go up, right? And then we might see articles like, Michael Saylor buys more Bitcoin as stock stabilizes, or there was talks that like he was selling off some of his Bitcoin, and then there was talks about people shorting it. There's so much whatever circulating around MSTR right now for bearish reasons that, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it'd say, but it's gonna say something like that. Short sellers step away and whatever it bounces. So all we can do is keep our fingers crossed that the bounce keeps going, right? Granted, like we just said, MSTR is just now running into that resistance at the $206 mark. That's a 30-minute trend. We're basically going to need that to break out for any sort of cool continued momentum up on MSTR for the moment. But I mean, you got to admit, right? Think about this. So this whole time it's been going down, it's had one green day there, one green day there, one there. So one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. So amongst that whole move down, you, we involved ourselves on one of the only green days, right? Belong MSTR in this downtrend, and we pick the green day. Not bad. Not bad. 10:36, guys. I mean, what a crazy day it's been. Absolutely crazy. Oh no, MSTR, why did you have to top right at the resistance level we talk about? No. Da, 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 da. Come on, shitcoin. What? Where the heck did that chart go? What? Oh, there it is. What the heck? Um, do I care about percentage change? Yes. I guess I can't say I pay too much attention to it as it relates to like a daily thing if you're talking about like if stock is X amount of percent over like a week, does that mean something? No, I just look at percent, gain or whatnot, or what the risk is in percentage terms, if you will. Oh man, crazy stream this morning. Really just crushing. All right, let's go take a little gander at the market. Oh no, it's going down. Who would have thought? Man, I can't wait for the day that we go back into a long signal just so we can kind of all just laugh and just be like, oh, see, told you so. The best part of it all is, as far as like the Roth IRA that I use for a lot of this stuff, it's like, granted, I do have a small position on, so I am actually getting some of this movement down, unfortunately, but it's so small that it's not going to really matter at the end of the day. So majority, if you will, majority of my portfolio is not involved in any of this decrease, right? So it's like that's cool. And we'll involve ourselves, put the portfolio back on when the market goes into an uptrend. So that's the nice thing is that, right now we can kind of watch this drop as it relates to at least one of the portfolios and not really be worried because we're not involved in it, right? Our portfolio is not going down because of the market right now. We'll only involve ourselves in it when the market starts to go up and we start to create uptrends, if you will. So prevents keeps a lot of risk out of our portfolio, if you will. Ooh, Bitcoin 92.8. Let's go, little guy. Just hit one of those mega rippy candles and shoot it all the way up to $94,500 and 95,250. Come on, little guy. Go. You need to pump. You need to pump it up. Hmm. Actually, we should look at the standard deviation right now on the volatility index. Would you hurry up, computer? Thank you. Nah, not quite. Meh, not really. Plus two. Oh, yeah, it's getting up there. Yeah, I would say we're starting to see VVIX starting to get up to plus two standard deviation. Generally speaking, that's close to when markets bottom or well top in that case, depending on how you're looking at it. Let's see the VIX. Ooh, the VIX is only at plus one daily. Hmm. Two. Hmm. You know, say we're not super extended on like volatility and the VVIX to the point where it just makes sense to totally slam it long. No, still just gotta wait. If you look at the stock VRA, VRA is all the way back down to where? $2.62. Exactly what we told you would happen if the market did not continue into its uptrend. It would revert back down to where? Basically right there. So that's also how you basically have foresight analysis because again, things can only go up, they can only go down, right? And the algorithms are just going to move it back and forth to their most known uptrend or downtrend level, which would be 260. All right. So if the uptrend can't keep going, market reverts back to the reason it went up in the first place, 50 SMA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get the point. 1047, honestly, probably going to end the stream here today. Not a whole lot more I think I can offer to you guys. We've already let you know the market was probably going to go down. That ended up happening. We'll let you guys know that we're going to be looking to bounce Bitcoin and MSTR. That happened. And then we would try to bounce VRA. That happened with a best case scenario return of about 10%. And those are the three things that we pretty much looked at today. So all markets, I would say we're done fairly accurate today. That's good. Kept everyone on the right side of the markets, as we always try to do. And I guess I'll just see you guys back tomorrow. Don't do anything too crazy. Don't blow all your money. There's no point. Market will be here tomorrow. Have some fun, and we'll catch you back tomorrow morning. Cheers.